tour of the Criminal Justice Committee. We'll start out with roll call.
Mr. Hess,
Present.
Mr. Byrne,
Present.
Mr. Lear,
Present.
Mr. Legess, Mr. Olthoff, Mr. Snipes, Ms. Dunbar, Mr. Ritter, Ms. Parker, Mr. Fairfield, Mr. Carrico, Mr. Eckhoff, Mr. Smith, Ms. Zuccolo, Mr. Wheeler, Mr. Seroy. We have a quorum.
I have not received anything for public comment. Is there any public comment at this time? Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes from May 15th, 2019. Mr. Olthoff with a motion, second by Ms. Zuccolo. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next up on the agenda, we have Kankakee County ESTB CANCOM overview with Tammy Peterson, but we have a little technical difficulty with the flash drive. It will not work in here, so I think we're going to move this to next month's meeting. Do you have any comments, though, to start with, Tammy or Jim? You got to use the microphone when you say that. So. Okay. All right. Next up is Chief Judge, Mr. Michael Kramer. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Chairman Hess. How are you?
Wonderful.
Good morning, everyone. I don't usually get to come to this meeting, so it's a pleasure to be here with you today. Our current part-time Chief Public Defender, Gus Regas, has announced his retirement effective September 1st of this year. And after much discussion within the judiciary and with some of you in this room, it's become apparent that with the increase in criminal caseload in our county, the needs of the Public Defender's Office have increased, and that a full-time Chief Public Defender is now needed in our county to properly manage that office. The PD's office, Public Defender's Office, presently has 14 attorneys, and all but 2 of those are part-time. So there's only 2 full-time public defenders, attorneys in that office now. And historically, the Chief Public Defender has been a part-time position. So this will be a change in that office. The Illinois statutes require that the salary of a full-time public defender, chief public defender, be set at 90% of the salary of the state's attorney in our county. And the full-time public defender, by statute, cannot practice law if they're full-time. The state picks up 2/3 of the public defender's salary, and the last 1/3 is the county's responsibility. The net cost to the county of going full-time with our public defender will be approximately $30,000 per year. Now, this decision was undertaken with much thought, not lightly, and may very well be the first step in a number of steps to address the needs of our public defender's office. The new chief public defender, whoever that is, we're going to do a search, will be charged with determining the best way to efficiently and effectively meet the needs of that office. And you all can expect a report sometime later this year. I'm anxious to hear what our new person comes up with. This is a small investment to make to ensure that our court system is meeting its constitutional duty, providing adequate criminal defense counsel to those who can't afford it. The alternative is to subject the county to expensive relitigation of criminal matters due to ineffective assistance of counsel and possible direct lawsuits against the county for violation of defendants' constitutional rights. I'm announcing this to you today because I intend to post this position hopefully this week. I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody has about the change in the public defender's office.
Questions for the chief judge?
Again,
Mr. Wheeler?
More of a comment. The chief judge and I talked about this quite a few times, actually, over the past 6-8 months, and it comes with my recommendation to this committee and then again to finance to do this because, as the chief judge and I talked about, it's better that the new person kind of picks the path of the office, but we both recognize the need, and this is the best way to tackle that caseload within the financial constraints that we're under right now. Things will get better, obviously, but obviously the chief judge runs a courthouse, and this is their decision. We have to finance that decision, and I would say that I recommend that. It makes the most sense based on what's going on here, especially since the state picks up that large percentage of this. The work is there, and we need someone focused on the work, full-time.
Mr. Lear?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there anything about the search for a full-time public offender that's important for us to know?
I just wanted you to be aware that the position will be posted this week. I didn't want you to see it on the website or something like that and be surprised by that. I just came here today to announce this to you, so you would be up to date. You've got the most current information now of anybody in the county, so
Okay.
this will be posted this week, is why I'm here today.
Thank you.
Mr. Searice?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Judge, do you have a timeline? Are you gonna, with Gus retiring in September 1st, are you gonna try to put that person in his office a couple weeks or 3 weeks before to overlap to make sure that it's seamless?
That's a really good question. Kind of depends on the candidates that are identified. Maybe a person that has to
It's already in the office, possibly?
maybe already in the office. That's one possibility. The other possibility is that they're working somewhere else and we'll have to finish up matters there.
Correct.
So it's my hope that we have someone identified with at least a couple weeks before September 1st. So they're in a position to kind of finalize their own matters and have a chance to view what's going on in that office if they're not very familiar with it already.
Yeah, thank you.
That's a very good question.
Mr. Byrne?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make the motion, we move this to finance with the recommendation of the Criminal Justice Committee that we move forward with the judge's recommendations.
Motion by Mr. Byrne, second by Ms. Sekulo. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. May I be excused?
Yes, you may.
Thank you.
Am I going to tell you no? Next on the agenda, we have the Circuit Clerk's Office, Ms. Cianci. Take a motion to combine the monthly report. Mr. Jess, second by Mr. Eckhoff. Comments on your report, Sandy?
No, good morning, by the way. No, everything's normal and customary. On all of them. The collection report, I wanted to point out too that, on the recovery side, that we did really well. This last month of May, over $100,000 more collected, from last month, and even 50 or so thousand more than, the same time last year. So we've had a lot of good money coming in. And then the state's attorney call netted a good amount of money too, $16,700. So that's, things are moving along pretty well, money-wise.
Questions for Sandy on the reports? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Computerization update.
Yeah, so the July 1st deadline is coming right around the corner, so we're working diligently on getting all of the computer, the software ready to match up with the new laws that are coming up on July 1st. Tyler Technologies is the e-filing mechanism, and they are putting out a notice to all the attorneys. They started even this week that on Friday, June 27th, I think it is, whatever Friday that is, it's 27th or 28th, they're going to stop the inflow of civil filing at noon so that we all have the opportunity to clear out our queue. before the end of business day so that nobody has to work overtime on the weekend, because all the fees and everything switches over on July 1st, and they know that the computer won't be able to discern by the filing date what day it actually came in. So that was a decision by the Supreme Court, or the Administrative Office of Illinois Courts. So that's what's going to happen, and that's really about it I have right now. I'm working on getting a part-time person put in place to help out with the office, and I'm working with the chairman on a few other things, and I'll have more news next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for Sandy? Thank you. Mr. Rowe, in your packet you have a copy of the grand jury report and the grand jury statistics report for May of 2019. Take a motion to approve that. Mr. Burns, second by Mr. Lear. Comments on your report?
You can see we're up to 418 felony indictments. That's through the end of May. We've got another grand jury tomorrow. Grand jury takes place every other week on Thursday, so we're probably going to end the year, I'd say, close to 1,000, unfortunately. We're capping the number we take to grand jury at every session at around 40 cases. Otherwise, you're just there, far too long. The grand jurors start getting where they want to leave. We want them to come back every other week. So we try to be understanding and respectful of their time. When we cap it at 40, that means sometimes cases get bumped to the next one, but we try to prioritize those. You can see what's, other than narcotic cases, what's leading the pack among felonies is still that felony domestics. And those are either repeat offenders or a domestic incident in which there's great bodily harm, strangulation, very serious cases. So we continue to work with Harbor House. We've had a couple meetings with them recently with victim witness, with our attorneys who are assigned to the domestic and sex cases, and then Harbor House, their legal advocates, and their new executive director, Jenny Shanewetter. Those have been very productive meetings. We've changed the way we process those cases going forward. Well, in the past, if a police officer arrives on scene and there's a domestic and the offender is still there, he's getting taken into custody. But if he's not present, so he flees the scene, which is probably more than half of the cases at least, when the case would come in, we would charge it, it would go to grand jury, it would go to court, they'd get a notice to appear in the mail. We just don't think that's a very healthy way to handle those cases, because that you may be mailing that notice to appear in court to the marital residence where the abuse is occurring. That's a dangerous situation you create. So now anytime on any felony domestic, our office seeks warrants. So the case comes in, we review it now within 24 hours of receipt in our office. If the case is filed, we have an officer come in and swear out a warrant. So at least they can go out and pick him up, just like he would have been arrested at the scene had he not left. So little changes like that, we're really trying our best to get these numbers down in the felony domestic area.
Questions? Mr. Searoyce.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are most of those offenders male?
I would say probably
Just-
all but one or two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Lear.
Switching topics,
Maybe two.
what impact do you think the law in regard to recreational marijuana will have in your office?
I can't say that we have filed many cases with small amounts of marijuana to begin with. Under 10 grams is a civil offense, so it's not a criminal matter to begin with. 10 to 30, you're still in the misdemeanor range. When you get over 30 grams and up, it starts to bump up, or if you can show that they had it with intent to distribute. So you catch them with a good amount of marijuana along with a scale or packaging materials. Some of those we've filed, but the majority of the felony narcotic cases you see on here are not marijuana. I can tell you that. They're probably just a handful out of the, I think it was 90-something, I don't remember the number, 90-some-odd cases. Majority of those are heroin and cocaine. So I don't know that it'll decrease our caseload very much.
Do you know the expungement provisions of that? Who would speak to that?
Well, we've still got to make a decision on how we're going to handle that. The legislation appears to automatically expunge certain cases, and then it falls on the county or the state's attorney's office to decide which other ones they'll file. It's something we still need to discuss. We've got a few ideas we're thinking about. I'm not gonna just have a blanket, no, we won't do it. But I also don't wanna sort of open the floodgates. If someone's got a prior sex offense on their record, they've got a prior maybe aggravated domestic battery, I'm not really inclined to assist them, so to say, in expunging some lesser offense. But if someone has one felony on their background from years ago and it's marijuana related, I probably would be open to assisting that person in some way. And really, we do that now through the expungement and sealing clinics we've been running. So it probably wouldn't be much of a change from what we're already doing, except we would be initiating that process instead of the offender.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Snipes?
No questions.
No questions. Is it, Bob, is this relevant to the reports?
Absolutely.
Okay. I was going to ask for a vote first.
Just a point of reference to kind of trail on Mr. Lear. There's going to be, I don't know as to the number to this county, but from the news, it looks as if it's going to be a lot of individuals either being released, or exonerated of these drug offenses. To what degree would that affect Kankakee County as far as individuals being released from prison back into the society? And then is there anything in place to kind of acclimate them back into society if they've been gone for some time?
That's probably a question, for Jasper Jones or with renewed opportunity, and then maybe the sheriff would know what those numbers look like. I don't know offhand. I don't even think that those calculations have been done as to how many people are still incarcerated for a marijuana-related offense and would be released into the community. I have no idea what that number looks like. We haven't gotten anything on that.
Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second to combine and approve the reports. All in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Anything else for us? Thank you, sir. Your microphone's off. In your package, you have a copy of the Public Defender's Report for May. I'll take a motion to put it on file. Mr. Legess, second by Mr. Altoff. All in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Morning, Tom. Good morning. In your package, you have a copy of the probation report for the month of May. Take a motion to approve. Ms. Dunbar, second by Mr. Eckhoff. Comments?
No, just on the report, you can see, pretty ordinary. We had a little over 2,800 successful contacts in May, 48 investigations, and just under 300 drug tests. So, regular month, if anybody has any questions.
Any questions? Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. What else do you have for us, sir?
Just a couple things. As everyone knows, the budget was signed for state fiscal year 2020, which included a large increase for probation salary reimbursement. After about 5 years of flat appropriations, and obviously our expenses go up, this is very good news. It's significant. I've talked to the chairman about, I've done the math and given him the number, but I haven't received anything officially from AOIC yet. But it's not tied to new positions, which is a good thing. I've been encouraged to push for a couple positions, especially in the pretrial area. But talk to the chairman, we're not going to do that. We're going to hold that side of it, the expense side of it, and hopefully this additional revenue will just offset or the budget in other areas or help the budget. We're not going to push for that or adding staff or anything. So it's really good news, and I was very, very surprised when it came down that it's what they would call full funding, and the state would describe as full funding. So it's good news.
Questions? Mr. Wheeler.
More of a comment. I wanted to publicly thank Tom for that. The sentiment he just expressed. It's a tendency, you get more money, you want to spend more money in government, and he realizes, we talked about this, that we may be out of the hole, but we're still not in the sunshine, if you will. And until we have to stop borrowing money, and borrowing it from ourselves and banks, we're not clear. And I appreciate that, you know, and when things do get to that point, that's when we add the people that we're talking about, you know, going forward. So I appreciate that.
So it's good news. It's a big jump, and even if they start flat funding, you know, it goes flat again. At least we've made that big jump up, and it's not. So it's good news for both Kankakee and Iroquois, obviously. So the only other thing is we had 2 employees resign. Both are relocating out of state. Great, good employee. One's a 20-year employee. One's a 2-year. Been with us about 2 years. Both very good employees. Hate to lose them, but we're in the process of filling those vacancies. So moving with that. But that's all I have.
How are you for funding? How many months behind are you?
Actually, we're paid through February, so
That's not too bad then.
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
You know? That's not bad at all. So we've been receiving actually pretty consistently lately. So
Good. Mr. Snipes?
Along that same train of thought, of questioning, is now with this marijuana fiasco that's out there, is that going to reduce your caseload by 25%?
no, I don't think. I mean, we're going to treat marijuana basically like we treat alcohol now. In most court orders, they're not going to be allowed to use it. But yeah, it's going to be treated just like we do alcohol now. I mean, it's not, we don't violate people for using it. Never mind, I won't say. But we're going to treat it just like alcohol. We're going to test for it, continue to test for it, and things like that. So it'll just be more of a technical violation than a new offense. So.
Mr. Wheeler?
That reminded me, I saw something on this Warrant Wednesday thing that somebody does. Anyway, somebody was doctoring a sample. Would that be the kind of thing that you would see in your office, where they're doctoring a sample and then that's another offense?
Yeah,
Okay.
they try to dilute it, or they wear
Things.
Wizinators is called.
Yeah. Wizinator.
It's expensive, you know. But they do. We catch them with that and blue bottles,
Okay.
you know, and stuff like that. They get.
Yeah, I was
Sprayed
curious. I saw
over.
that and I thought maybe that was related
Yeah,
to
there's a
what-
temperature on the drug test that we
Oh.
know right away that okay, this didn't. It's not from you.
better you than me.
Anything else?
I don't have anything else.
Anything else for Mr. Latham? Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next is the sheriff. In your packet, you have a copy of his monthly report. I hope everybody received it early by email. Take a motion to approve it. Mr. Legess, second by Mr. Fairfield. Comments on your report, sir?
Good morning.
Oh, it's beautiful. Everybody has noticed how the microphones are working. The sheriff took care of that for us.
Well, let's not go
It
that
was the
far.
IT people
Yeah.
took care of that for us.
Yeah, come on now. If you look at the top with our population, our out-of-county inmates compared to May of 18 to May of 19, our out-of-counties have gone up by about 30 on average. The majority of which, the reason for that increase is more attributed to the marshals than it is to ICE. And the marshals continue to seek more beds. So I don't look for that number to change anytime soon. Our correctional officers, they go through more inspections than I think anybody I know, but we just got done with our Illinois Department of Corrections inspection, which is different than the Nakamoto inspection from ICE and the other inspection from ICE, but we are constantly going through inspections, which, as I've said before, makes us better. The last inspection from the Illinois Department of Corrections, we had no deficiencies, and we met all the Illinois Department of Corrections standards, so credit to the jail administration and the correctional officers for what they do every day. Questions on that part of it? Our transports are remaining pretty steady. Our medical transports have increased significantly, as well as our ICE transports. the majority of those medical transports and all of the ICE transports we get reimbursed for, mileage and salary, so it's somewhat of a wash. And everything else has been pretty standard on the patrol side. Our numbers remain consistent. They fluctuate month to month, but our guys are out there writing tickets, serving papers, so there hasn't been much of a change there. And then you can see down at the revenue with the overtime reimbursement along with the bed rentals and the inmate telephone and the other inmate revenue, we're averaging about $1,092,000 a month in strictly revenue. That doesn't obviously count for cost, but our cost and our budget this year is equivalent to what it was last year, so we should see significant increases for the county, we hope. We're already $974,000 ahead of where we were last year at this time, so take a message. Questions on that?
Donuts next month.
Yep.
Donuts next month. Okay, any questions on the report? We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. You mentioned ICE. Do you have any comments on the public comment that occurred yesterday at the county board meeting?
Well, and it's interesting you say that, Mr. Snipes, because the fact that they used that analogy to our board and to our department, that they referenced it as a war, I truly believe is an insult to every veteran who ever served our country. For them to clarify that as a war is ridiculous. I just some of the things that I guess the other thing I would say is that there's never a differentiation of who, and the couple ladies were from Winnetka and Skokie, and God bless them for making the trip down to Kankakee. But, if they want, and I showed this committee last month, I showed this committee the people that we're picking up from the Illinois Department of Corrections. And if they really want the people who are getting out of prison who sexually assaulted a kid under 5 years old, then come out and say it. Don't stand up there and say, we need to treat them all the same. Take a stand. If that's what you want, then say it. I'm good with it. If that's what you believe, then God bless you. That's your belief, your opinion, and I respect it. But don't sit there and say, we have to take care of all of them. That's, for them to get up in front of people and say that, they can't mean that, I wouldn't think. If they do, then shame on them, because I don't want them people here. And the other thing they forget, and they never use the term illegal. It's illegal. I didn't write the laws. Go to Washington, D.C. and change the laws. That's simple. We've offered. The chairman, myself, we have reached out. We have extended an olive branch and said, we will help in moving our laws and changing our laws if we can. We've offered that help. Not once have we got a call saying, hey, we need your help. Hey, we want to work together. So I probably said too much now, so I'll just leave it alone. Anyway. Yeah.
Is that one of the main phones?
Which one is it? That's the bat phone. I have two other things
Okay.
that are brief, just for your information. And I think Judge Kramer had left, but he wrote a nice email to me the other day. I have kept you guys up to date as far as the individual that we hired back in May of 2018 who goes through all of our medical bills. And the running total now, as far as savings, the amounts that we have not had to pay from May of 18 through June of 18 or half of June of 18 is $135,591. Wow. Now, the reason I got an email from Judge Kramer There are numerous times in court when there are specific medical things ordered, tests and things like that through the courts. And in the past, the courts are required to pay that bill, which means the county's required to pay that bill. And just last month, Katie, they referred these bills to Katie to see if she could help. And in the first month, she saved $6,000. So she's worth every penny we pay her. It's going to be a big plus to the courts. It's obviously a big plus to us because we have a large number of inmates. So credit to her for what she does, not only for our department, but now for the county in general. So I just think it's important that you guys know that we are looking at ways to save money, and she's doing a great job. So,
Great. Questions on that?
and lastly, I will just some of you were aware, some of you were at the press conference. The chairman held a press conference a couple Fridays ago regarding the emergency declaration, in which our emergency management director, Chief Chad Gessner, was involved with. And I just want to let you know that things have moved from local to state to Washington, D.C., and I can't thank the chairman and Chief Gessner enough for what they've done through this process. This is something that is precedent-setting for the state of Illinois, so much so that when it first happened, the state of Illinois said, we've never done this before. So that's a credit to them for what they do in trying to work and benefit and help our farmers who desperately need the help, obviously. We've run into a dry patch right now, and I heard somebody say the other day, boy, we really need some rain. And it's like, are you kidding me? So anyway, so credit to them, Mr. Chairman, Chief Gessner, who's probably upstairs working, but that's great work. So that's all I have.
Questions for the sheriff? Oh, Mr. Snipes. Almost.
Up under what I term Operation SCAT, which is just shutting down criminal activity in the Pembroke area at the SICO. Do you all still have some type of relationship with trying to govern, I guess, this activity that's at the, I guess the SICO is the thing that keep ringing in the ear that they have a concern with?
We have numerous what's called agency agreements with the Citgo and with the Sunshine Mart, which is actually kind of right next door.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what the agency agreement says is if the owners of those properties do not want people on their property, they can ask them to leave. If they don't leave, then they can call us and we would arrest them for criminal trespass. That doesn't happen very often.
Mm-hmm.
I know that the mayor of Hopkins Park has done some things through his board that they've now limited the amount of time that they're open. I believe they're closing at 8 o'clock at night. For the time being, the owners were not happy about it, but I think we met with them. I sat down with the mayor and with the two owners of those two businesses, and the mayor had advised them that if we can get a grasp on the loitering and the hanging out, he would be willing to expand those hours back. So we're working with them, but the agency agreement is in place, yes.
Okay. Have they ever had them to, maybe they have it out there, where they have cameras?
We have them.
They have?
Yeah, there's cameras.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And actually, one of the stipulations through the village, not through us, they have actually increased the number of cameras they have.
Good. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for the sheriff? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next up, coroner, Mr. Gessner. In your package, you have a copy of the monthly report and the monthly receipts of money. Take a motion to combine and approve. Mr. Eckhoff, Ms. Dunbar. Good morning, sir.
Top of the morning, Mr. Chairman. Always a pleasure.
Congratulations on your win
Thank you.
at the Riverside. Oh, I'm sorry.
Had a good golf day, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. You gotta go through all.
You want to go through your report?
Yeah. Basically, everything is looking kind of pretty good, knock on wood, but basically our autopsies are gone from 11 to 12 per month down to around 6, which is good. Everything else is pretty well self-explanable. The only thing that I talk about basically is the overdoses. This month here, we're always a little weary about the summer coming where they get to move around a little bit more. We were at 9 in April, and we've jumped to 12, and we've also have 2 pending that are probably definitely going to be overdoses. So that's about equal to what we were last year when we had 29. So as long as we don't go any higher than that, but it seems to be still a lot of drugs in the area here, and I think that'll continue. So I'll take it.
When you mentioned the incomplete, it was mentioned yesterday. Explain why it's incomplete. That's why you're waiting for the reports and that?
Either waiting for the toxicology to come back or waiting for the doctor's report to come back, or we're working together with the police department on getting all their. I can't. Sometimes they won't release it until I get their report. So those are what they call them, Dieter, that incomplete right now.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second for the monthly reports and the receipt of money. All in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Well, the other question that we're still out, actually I call it recess right now, where the schools are out now, so we get a little chance to settle down a little bit. But I did hit a couple of schools. We did hit first time 5th, 6th, and 7th grade, which was very interesting to talk to, and it really kind of opened my eyes up. And we talked about, the teachers wanted me to talk a little about what's going on in the area, but when I brought up pictures like this in front of all of them, just about every one of them sang out what that was, which was marijuana. So, and then I talked a little bit about this, which is gummy bears, and understanding that they've already had 2 cases in Bradley and District 111 where they've had these. But it was interesting to talk to them and ask them that, can you name me some drugs out there? And I had a lot of hands come up. These are 5th, 6th, and 7th graders with talking about mollies, which I went like that when we talked about that, ecstasy, cocaine, heroin, marijuana, fentanyl. Wow. And we're kind of forbidden to go down and teach these only in certain cases. We can't use the grant money for it. I was shocked. It was an eye-opener, and that's why the teachers were telling me that we need to start going to those smaller kids, because that's what's happening. That's going to be around. So,
Who would you need to contact with the grant money to see if the age range could be lowered?
we can only go to 18, nothing below 18 in the
yeah.
grant. But I can go into the schools. And of course, you have the Pledge of Life that talks about
Right.
that too, the county-wise. We work well with them. And then other than that, that was kind of shocking when we got out of there to see that. And basically, the only good thing about it is you draw a circle around the Herscher area. You don't have any problems out there at all, which is really good as far as drug-wise, overdoses.
Mr. Olthoff.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't know if you're allowed to ask this, but did you ask if anybody offered to distribute any of these products to them?
I was right here, but I was afraid to say that. My brother does. We were mostly telling about this is be careful in school here. If people are bringing stuff in, brownies, cookies, and stuff like this is all in that. If it's in a plastic bag in their hand and they're out and about, and ask them where it came from. Did they get it from a normal place, or they get it from home? Because this is what's going to happen. So we're just trying to alert people on this aspect. So that, other than that, we still, as you all know, we were out, spent a lot of time out in the Moments area with a drowning out there, and we're still working on that. Conservation is working on that. Thanks to Trent, I see him in the audience, coming out there and using their drone to be able to tell us what was on the other side of that dam-wise or a buildup of a lot of debris out there. He got underneath that, and I don't know when we'll ever be able to find him. It's so, him and his dog.
We have one out there that we never did find in a log jam.
Log jams, and the seeing the drone when he went up high and down, it goes about a mile down there, it was very nifty to see that there was another one on, coming down on it. So if he did get through that, possible, there's a little canal basically underneath there that they can get in through. But a lot of the departments, Moments Fire Department, who was out there, did an excellent job with us, but he just couldn't find him, you know. So we're still doing the best. There's somebody out there checking that every day, and word goes to, we talk to the family, and the family realizes all that too. So that's a tough part of the job, is to try to find the family. We found the family, and to let them know what's happening here. So other than that, that's all I got.
Questions or comments for Coroner?
Shocking. You said you weren't going to raise your hand today.
Changed my mind. Yesterday, I got a call as a chaplain to come in. A son kind of found his father unresponsive, and come to find out it was kind of like an overdose that Riverside had to handle. And when I came in, or whatever they used, whatever it was, that Narcan or whatever it is, to reverse it.
Yeah.
And so his life is saved, though he's still in there. Because of whatever. But it's nice to know, and the son kind of expressed the reason that he's not doing what he does is because he's seen what the trauma that has caused his dad, you know, down this kind of troubled life or whatever. And so when I'm looking at you all dealing with the 4th, 5th, and 6th graders who I had the opportunity to deal with for over 12 years, along with, you know, the high school and that, is you'll be surprised. I think the sitcom that says, "Are you smarter than a 5th grader?" Is something to look at, because now you can see what these young people have to deal with on an everyday basis. And then also out in the community, the individual came in to beg for money, only to find out that they get over $1,600 a month, of which the kid says is the crazy check. I had to find out what the crazy check was, and I guess they can go into Social Security and get SSI, I think it is, for if the child is this, that, and the other. And it was interesting that when I went back, because they was asking for money, and I'm saying, but they wanted to buy cocaine, and I had another preacher out there with me. We went back and kind of happened to saw that the family wasn't being taken care of. So there's a lot of stuff that these kids are going through during this time or whatever, where there's a mismanagement of funds, and the kids are being neglected. They're selling the link cards and stuff in the stores. Kids are not getting the benefit. And I know it's not in your office, but the ability to get there and to kind of see how educated that they are with these drugs and how apparent that they are in their life, I think it's a step in the right direction as far as educating them at that level. I know DARE used to catch them at that level, but it kind of went away. But it's interesting to kind of go back to them or whatever, and then find out, because they have a story among stories.
Oh, yeah.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Any old business to come before the committee? Any old business? Any new business? New business. New business, Miss Dunbar? Did you have new? Oh. Motion to adjourn by Mr. Legess, second by Miss Dunbar. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.